I've raced bikes all around Europe, from EWS to local races, national races in multiple countries. And the races that always give me the most enjoyment, always have done, are the small local ones. From racing the mini Enduros in Forest Dean back in 2014, the Southern Enduros in 2016, crazy Slovakian downhill races, and lately the Capital Enduros and the small downhill races here in Sweden. So today we're going to look into the reasons why you should race your local Enduro series this season. Let's get into it. For the vibe. Something that always gets me with these bigger races is there's a different pressure, right? I personally didn't perform to my best at the EWS, or certainly the first few, because I really felt like the pressure of the event, or the magnitude of the event, got into my head a little bit. National series, I tend to put quite a lot of pressure on myself. I do enjoy that to a degree, but then when it comes to these like regional races, I just feel like I can completely relax. And I know I'm not alone on this. I'm sure everyone has a different way of looking at it, but what this means for me, or how I get to this feeling, is just the vibe around the whole race. You go there and it's often put on by a very tight-knit community of never more than like 10 guys. Often this absolute core of riders that go around and they find all the venues and they do all the taping and stuff. And these guys aren't doing it for a job. Like it's never like a main source of income, if income at all. And on top of this, you get to see the same faces at these races. So there's some people that I've known for like 4 years since I've been here, and like I never see them apart from a Capital Enduro, for example. It's the only place I see them. But whenever we do, everyone's super polite and everyone's just stoked to like get on these little tracks that are like on 30-40 meter hills, but it's just a good day out on the bike. And I think that can be really undervalued in the community. It's not always about these big long descents or these big days out on the bike. Sometimes it is like a 10-kilometer loop with like 5 tracks that you do twice, and everyone can just have a giggle between them, you know. I think there's a lot to be said for that. So yeah, my first reason is for the vibe. Putting some money back into your local scene. Like, this is important because a lot of places or a lot of countries have it different. So in Sweden you have like a local club, and then you have your local hills, and each one's like ran a little bit differently. But these races, sometimes you have these ski hills that, you know, on a normal open day they'll have like 10-20 people there, with like a low entry cost or something. And then you can have these races where all of a sudden on one day you can have 150 people there, and this goes such a long way to keeping like these small little community projects open. So I think that's super important. But then also, you know what, if these guys that are running it, if as like our entry fee gets enough for them to just have something in their pocket at the end of it for all the work that they're putting in, I'm so much happier to do that, especially when it's costing, here it's like 250 crowns, which is maybe like 20 euros or 20 pounds. So like that for one day where you just turn up, you ride your bike, you get some results, you get some free food, and you go home. Like it's a pretty good deal, really. And like I say, if that just gives them a little bit in their pocket at the end of the day, then I'm all for it. So reason 2 was keeping that money circulating on the local scene. Practicing the racecraft. As we were talking about earlier, with like there being less pressure on these events, and often like different style of event, I think it's really good for practicing your racecraft and building confidence. For me, it was the areas where I started to really build up my confidence in riding and racing. And when you have a lot of these smaller races, you seem to get, or at least I found that I got used to this, being in a start gate, going through the tape, giving it the full beans, and then it starts to become a bit more natural over time. Um, and at these little races, because they are just that, it's a bit easier to not worry about the result so much or anything. So then you don't realize, but then you'll go to a bigger race and you'll be like, oh, well, you know what? It's just exactly the same as what I did last weekend, just hanging out with the guys. The difference is now there might be a beep rather than just someone going, yeah, you're free to go now. So that's been somewhere that I've really been able to like hone my racecraft and get over my sort of mental blocks when it comes to racing. And I think it's super important to have an environment where you can do that and you can feel relaxed enough to do that. So yeah, I would really recommend that to people that either been riding for a long time and they feel like they're not getting what they want to get out of their race runs, or there's people new to the sport and you don't want to jump straight into the top end. It's the perfect place. And you know what, if you just want to go riding for a day, it's great for that too. So there was a lot of other smaller reasons that I just wanted to put out there and just get them down, but they weren't such a big point that I had so much to say on. But I think these are all little reasons that if you're on the fence, you might listen to these and go, you know what, yeah, I'm gonna go to one of these races this year. I usually only go to this or this or this, but I'm gonna go to one of these little ones. So let's get into them. So first on my list is, like, obviously less travel time, okay? And for me in Sweden anyway, the closest, we had one national race in Stockholm this year, but the rest of them, I think the closest was like 4 hours, and it's 4 hours in a 3.5 ton van. That's not so great on fuel. So this adds up. Add that into like everything that's going on at the moment. Like, if you can reduce those costs to go to a race, maybe it's a season where you go, you know what, I'm going to try and save a bit of money and I'm going to race locally so that I don't have to spend all that money on going nationals this year. Which really links us into the second point on here, which is lower entry fees. Like, the difference between one of these local races and one of the national races here in Sweden is maybe 500 crowns, which again is like 45 pounds, euros. So it's quite a big chunk of money, and when you put those two things together with like the difference in driving and the lower entry fees, and I guess you can add on accommodation because you'd be able to stay at home if you're racing in your hometown, these things really start to add up. Again, something we touched on briefly in some of the other points, it's different event formats, which I think prepares you really well especially if you're racing in different countries. Often, or I think now anyway, the format's going to be pretty nailed on for EDR or UCI Enduro World Cup Series Championships, whatever it is now. Different story. But this like change of format style can be really good because you can find something that you're really good at, or you can find something that you're bad at, or something that you enjoy, but there's always something to work on or something different to play with. Like, the last race of our local one here was like the mashup format, which I first saw in like the Welsh Gravity Enduro like 7 years ago or so. And so you had like a T-bar lift, and you had 5 tracks, and you had as many runs on each track as you wanted, and you took your 2 or 3 best times from each, which was really cool. It really mixed it up. And then you have other venues where you'll say have 7 tracks that you pedal to each of them, and then they kind of repeat maybe 2 of like the favorites, but you've only got the morning to practice these tracks. So it really like adds a different element and gets you to like think about some sort of different things going on. One other thing, which was a bit of like a fanboy sort of thing, it really enables you to get close to the top riders in your country or in your area. I remember, so like the Southern Enduros, I remember Win Masters being there the last couple of years. And then like the Pedal Hounds Enduros that I used to do in the UK, there were times when you had like Brendan Fairclough turn up. What other ones have we had? Like the mini downhills, you used to see like Charlie Hatton back there now, and now he's sort of top end of World Cup. So you have all these guys that are super relaxed that you can just like chat to, and when it's these more relaxed environments, you get a bit of time. I remember chatting to like Simon Carlson not long after I moved here, and I'd just seen him win the national series. So I was like, oh my god, who's this guy? And then we're doing this race, and he was like, oh, you should look at this line, you should do this. I was like, whoa, this is so cool. So I think that's really good, especially for like younger or newer riders like coming into it, and you have these guys that you look up to, and all of a sudden it like opens the opportunity just to get some feedback or some advice from them, which I think is great. And I think that's really the main things that come to my mind anyway when I see the positives of racing the local series. So all I can say is get out there and get on them. They're cheap, they're close, they're fun, if you want to break it down to its simplest terms. So yeah, let me know what you think. Let me know your thoughts on this. If you have any other reasons, we can do some more reasons to race these. I'm also going to do one for reasons why you should be racing your national series. So if you have any ideas on that or any reasons why you particularly love to race your national enduro series, let me know. I've had a pretty rough start to the year myself. I've had a flare-up of my stomach condition, so I've been in bed the last 2 days. But not to miss an opportunity, I thought I'd have a brew and get in front of the camera and get a video out. I've been trying to get out for a while. So Happy New Year to everyone, and hope to see you on the trails soon. You'll notice a slight change in the channel name. This is the first video with that. Nothing much else to say on that one, but yeah, get shredding.